Hello and welcome back, everybody. Sorry for a bit of absence. It was the Independence Day weekend for me, and I was busy having some time out of the house with the family. We spent some time out at the lake with friends and just having fun. It was great. Hopefully you all had a good weekend as well, and I am ready to get back into things here in Total War Rome 2. Now, hopefully this replay will be up to date. We've had some issues where CA updated the game, and it's funny because really all they did was take away the chat, which I guess is probably just for the sake of them. Like, it's either legal or upkeep, one of the two. I don't know, but I would guess it's one of those two things. So all I did was like remove the chat and update a couple of things, and somehow it broke the replays. But that seems to be the case every time CA updates a Total War game, is it just breaks all the replays. So yeah, we've seen a couple of the last battles that ended awkwardly, and sure enough, it was because the replays were busted. Now this one's going to be Epirus versus Carthage, and I'm told that this is a pretty legendary match here. So we've got some Cretan archers up front for Epirus. We have some nice long-range standoff capability. Very expensive. The one I have to take care of those, obviously, because of the cost, but Cretan archers, of course, very deadly given the opportunity. Oh, there's 3 of them. Never mind, not just 2. So there are 3 of them, and they are squaring off against some mercenary Numidian cavalry, and that's being met by Tarentine cavalry. Now, I kind of like this trade here with the Tarentines, if you do it right, because the Tarentines have decent shields and stuff. They're pretty good for this type of thing, in terms of kind of like wearing down the Numidians, which I think is a pretty cool deal here. So let's take a look at the rest of the armies here. We're going to see some Illyrian levies here for the Epirus. There's 3 of those, no, 4 of them up front. Interesting Illyrian levies. Let's take a look at that unit real quick. I think it's an axe unit. Sorry, I'm going to pause it just so I can see this. Yeah, it is an axe unit. So it's going to have high armor piercing, but overall pretty trashy stats, but probably comes in at a fairly low price. And then in the very back, we're going to see some mercenary Samnite warriors, Thessalian cavalry, Molossian dogs. I see one of them, and then I've got two Agrionian axemen, and some Thessalian cavalry, Hellenic royal cavalry. So cavalry is going to be quite strong for Epirus. Carthage looks like they have a much better infantry contingent here. I see, let's check it out all. So Libyans, Samnites. So 2 Libyans, 3 Samnites, some mercenary Gallic warriors, late Libyan hoplites. Then I see a Carthaginian cav, a noble cav. So 3 Carthaginian cav, noble cav, and then the 3 Jav cav, and of course there's 2 Jav cav on the other side. So the Epirot infantry, for the most part, is lighter. It's going to deal a little bit more armor piercing because of the axe, but it's going to have a whole lot lower stats overall. Mercenary Italian swordsmen are, they kind of be comparable to a Libyan hoplite, right? Except probably a little better in a melee against other infantry. The shot cavalry for Epirus is going to hit hard. If the Carthaginian cavalry can get into a melee with it without taking that initial charge, the Carthaginian cavalry will do very well. Carthage is mercenary Balearic slingers. They would do alright from range, but the Cretans are still going to be pretty deadly. So I can understand Carthage not just looking to get into a shootout here with Epirus. I think they're hoping to do a little damage with their Numidian cavalry, which might help them, or just look for a better position to get into a melee from. Carthage is going to want to be very wary of that shot cavalry on approach. Like, if you go charging towards an enemy army, that shot cavalry like that, and you're not shielding your troops properly with your own cav, or just however you do. Ooh, that was pretty rough. When you turn your back to those Cretan archers, boy, they make you feel it. So in any case, yeah, it's dangerous approaching an army like that with your infantry, especially back when the units were spaghetti-lined even more, but it's still quite dangerous. A line spread out like this that gets hit with a heavy cav charge, especially a shot cavalry charge, it's going to take a tremendous amount of hit point damage. And the more I think about it, the more it is kind of frustrating in a way that we don't get a health bar on the units in this game. You just get to see the number of entities left. We know what the health per unit is because it tells you there, like in this unit it's 50 HP per min, like in this, like, so it'll kind of give you an idea on each one. So see, like here it's 45 HP, but you don't get to see a health bar like you do in the new Total Wars, which make it a little easier to understand the damage output of a unit, even if it's not cleaning up a ton of kills, because the kills actually come after a lot of the hit point damage. It gets spread out amongst the entities and then comes late. Speaking of which, it's not speaking of which, on a different topic, is what I should say. In the last video, I did some discussion of like the model for how CA releases Total War games, and I think some folks misunderstood me a bit. Others, I think, understood what I was getting at. Others won't agree, even if they understood what I get at, and that's fine too. You don't have to agree with me, but I wanted to clarify my stance in the last video. I was basically saying I don't want CA to release something broken like Rome 2 was, and then support it for years to make it playable, and then move on to the next thing. My suggestion was that they should be releasing games, and again, I'll use the Legend of Zelda as an example. Breath of the Wild was a game that was like 6 years in development plus, and when it released, it was fantastic. It took the genre in a whole new direction. They had rethought things. They offered things that no other Zelda game had ever offered before, and then here came its successor, Tears of the Kingdom. 6 years later, again, reuses a lot of the same assets, but they took the time to like just kind of completely redo things, add new content, and make it definitely a worthy game, like a worthy successor game. I want to see more of that from developers. Take your time to release the title and release it right. So like, Tears of the Kingdom, when I started playing it, was not busted. There wasn't game-breaking glitches. There wasn't list of things that need to be picked up in a patch. There wasn't people demanding a timeline for support because things were so screwed up. I want to see more of that from the developers. Anyway, that's what I'm hoping for from Total War. I would like to see that care given to these launches. Take your time. And then the other thing I kind of intended for that is like, if you take your time and really build a really nice Total War engine, you know, like the underlying code that runs the game, you could take that engine. So let's say that you make a game, for instance, you make Medieval 3 Total War, which everybody really wants. I say everybody, many people really want. So here comes Medieval 3. Look at the dogs. We let the dogs out, folks. Those mercenary Gallic warriors are going to get mauled here. So in any case, let's say you make a Medieval 3, but it's just a really awesome engine. Well, you could do expansions. Remember when they used to do expansions to games? So like, for instance, you played Shogun 2, and Shogun 2 was a melee-centric game set in Sengoku, Japan. And then they made an expansion that was all about shooting and took place during the Motion War era in Japan. That was cool. They could do that. They could still do that. You know what I mean? Like, they can do that with Total War still today. So like, for instance, when they made this Rome 2, if they would have taken their time and really made everything super sweet and nice, they could have planned an expansion that was like Medieval 3 a couple of years later. And then you don't have to do all of that same development work over and over and over again, remaking it every time. Like, you can just take your time to build something really nice and then improve it for the next launch. Anyway, let's talk about what's going on in the battle. That was my thought. Anyway, you all, again, can continue to share your thoughts or just ignore me, whatever you'd like. Interesting attack so far. The Epirus are definitely peeling off units at Carthage, and they are just pounding them over here with this cavalry. And I saw some Carthaginian cavalry get roughed up pretty good a moment ago in that melee. We've got some Cretans moving this direction as well. Let's just kind of see what's going on. So that's a Libyan infantry that's going to get absolutely punched in the face over here. That Thessalian cavalry is going to charge in and try and take down some of what was left. And there's a Samnite warrior here who's getting absolutely shredded by mercenary Cretans right now. Not a lot of infantry here for Epirus, so Epirus is going to have to be very choosy with how to use its infantry. And so far, Carthage has kind of just been feeding infantry. It seems like maybe piecemeal in here, but maybe I'm just not understanding the grade 8, which is very possible. Like, I have a lot of practice that I need to catch up on in Rome 2. I am going to try and play more soon, by the way. I'm going to get in with Soul's group and go play some more battles, and of course, when I have those, I'll bring those to you. Let's see what's going to happen here. So Carthage is going to commit some more infantry and their noble cavalry to knock out these Illyrian levies here. I mean, there's definitely not much infantry strength left for Epirus, but Carthage kind of keeps feinting forward and pulling back, and oh my gosh, man, that Samnite warrior got shredded for its trouble. And that Thessalian's going to counter that Carthaginian cavalry support there with their own charge. And just the sheer number of javelins coming in here is just insane. And then you got the Cretans firing in as well. That Carthaginian cavalry is going to get absolutely minced. Now, these mercenary Italian swords are bad, and I don't expect them to do good against the Samnites, but there is a lot of support nearby. And we've still got javelins here for the Agrionian axemen, and they are going to start shredding up that Libyan infantry. These guys are getting some value. At least it feels like it. They have thrown some painful volleys. Numidian cavalry attacking the dog handlers there. Some of those handlers actually aren't that bad. We got a Samnite warrior against Samnites, so this is some Samnite Civil War type stuff, and then Gallic warriors up against the mercenary Samnites. Yeah, here's the Samnite Civil War going on here, brother on brother. And let's see here, we got the noble cavalry out here. I don't think that noble cavalry really wants to mix it up with the Hellenic royals, if they can help it. I mean, the numbers are a little bit in their favor because the Hellenic royal cavalry is taking some damage, but I still don't think that noble cavalry is going to want that fight. A lot of skirmishers left here for Epirus. There's also skirmishers left for Carthage. And if Carthage can use those skirmishers to wear out that Thessalian cavalry, they certainly could win this fight just by way of those skirmishers. The Agrionians have pulled back. They still have javelins. They pulled back to cover the mercenary Cretan archers from potential attacks, I believe. We did get some infantry freed up. If it turns to go fight the Samnites, it gets shredded. If it chases the skirmishers, it's very likely to get shredded. So I feel like one way or the other, well, you can see where I'm going with the future of this Libyan infantry. It's going to be as a pincushion. So they might want to get used to that idea. This is a lot of skirmish power brought by Epirus here, and it has been put to rather good use, if I do say so. So yeah, the Balearic slingers back here, one of them took a little bit of damage. These two are in pretty good shape. I wonder how much ammunition the Cretans have left. These ones do not. They are daggers drawn and charging into combat. And this unit got charged, is why I think they pulled out their daggers. It's Carthaginian infantry trying to break through to these back lines, and still a few javelins coming off of one of these Agrionians, which is really cutting through those Gallic warriors. And with, as cut up as those Gallic warriors are, the Agrionians would be a match for them here, I believe. Yeah, and that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to kind of avoid the charge, use the other one to block it, and then turn around back into them here. So that's some good micromanagement. So Carthage is going to get chewed up here by Epirus in their missile-heavy build with dogs and cavalry for support. This was a very, very light infantry build. And what I mean by that is not necessarily like the weight class light infantry, but this build was very light on infantry. It was mostly mercenary Italians and levies. They only had 2 Samnites holding up a heavy infantry role here. So I guess what it is it's a focus on the actual damage dealing units for Epirus, which is going to be missiles and cavalry. And Epirus is just better at dealing damage in that manner. You know, they're not Rome. They're not a heavy barbarian faction. They don't deal their damage with the sword on the charge or in a grind-out fight. Epirus is going to deal their damage at range and with cavalry. And so that's the choice here that was made by the Epirot player. Carthage definitely had a better infantry line, but they were struggling with all of those skirmishers, and I don't blame them. And there's good cavalry on the other side for Epirus too, so it makes it that much harder to shut down an enemy skirmishers whenever the person on the other side is, number one, skilled at protecting them. Number two, they have a lot of cavalry to help with that protection. It gets very difficult to pick that apart. And Cretan archers, as you saw there, they're dangerous. They can pump out a lot of damage. And then, like in the Agrionians, same thing. They may not seem like they're uber deadly, but they've thrown their javelins. They've gotten some decent damage. And at this point, with units all worn down and tired, they're dangerous in a melee too. So they may not be something that you throw into a melee immediately in a fight, but when they come in like this, they are very dangerous late in a fight. So that's what makes the Agrionians an excellent support unit for these for these, well, yeah, I guess pseudo. We're going to say pseudo-Alexander factions, I guess. Alexandrian successor factions would be obviously the best way to say it, but I don't know where the word pseudo came from there, but I threw it in there, and I guess I was trying to make it work, but it doesn't. In any case, Epirus is going to come out with the victory here. That was Sol versus Leviathan. Nice job by Leviathan trying to fight through this one. This is honestly kind of a frightening army like to take down, and especially when it's in the hands of someone like Soul. Like, so when I played not too long ago, for instance, I remember one of the players opposite of me was one of the Wolf Clan guys. I think it was Ulda, maybe, if I remember right. I could be wrong. If I'm getting the name wrong, I apologize. But a very skilled player who was very good with their cavalry, and it was very tough to play opposite of them. And in some ways, Soul kind of reminds me of that when I see him playing, in the sense that I don't envy what Leviathan has to try and go through here. It is a tough thing to do. And I mean, he kept his Balearic Slingers alive. They got a lot of kills, and typically that is kind of, like a determination of who the winner is when you can keep 3 Balearic Slingers alive till late in the battle. I mean, it usually means you win, but not in this case. And I think it's because these skirmishers did such a good job of cleaning up a ton of infantry kills. So Carthage had 4 heavy infantry to only 2 for Epirus. And then Carthage had 3 of these light infantry to match the Italian swords, but these Illyrian levies were stacked on top of that. There was a couple of late Libyans, we'll call it, so maybe one more unit by way of numbers for Epirus in terms of infantry, but by weight, these heavy infantry can take on almost 2 of these lighter ones, typically speaking, just fine. But still, what's impressive here, look at the number of kills on some of these levies. That wasn't bad at all. They must have gotten into a fight where they were feeling pretty happy. 146 kills in the Molossian dogs, too. They got released into those poor Gallic warriors who, I guess I'm guessing it's one of these 2 units here that went home with like almost no kills and chewed to the bone. No doubt these guys will have trauma, like dog trauma, for any of the survivors. They'll have PTSD every time they hear a dog bark. But in any case, hope y'all enjoyed this one. Appreciate Soul and Leviathan. I will see you all soon with some more action in Total War Rome 2. See you then.